All right, you clicked on the right video. I'm gonna tell you why. So today, I'm gonna answer a lot of questions that a lot of people, like yourself, most likely have. And that question is, what is the creation story? And that's what I'm gonna tell you guys today. So I drew something on this whiteboard that pretty much runs down the first really introduction into the creation story. So let me give you guys a rundown of what I wrote on this board. So source. Source is exactly what that is. Source is the source that's been here ever since the beginning of time. Time doesn't exist. Time is a human construct. It helps us keep things organized. It's just a human construct. So source is, think of source as no beginning and no end. Source is infinite. Source is evergreen. And what evergreen means is that it always will be relevant because everything comes from it. So think of source as the creator, right? Source also can be referred to as the monad. And this is Gnostic text that I'm getting this from, Gnosticism. And, source and the monad can be referred to as God in Christianity, but we're gonna get into how the church kind of twisted things and how the early ancient texts, actually before the earliest versions of Christianity, were actually Gnosticism. So in Gnosticism, the monad is source. So source, monad is the creator of everything, right? Now, source created the pleroma. So what the pleroma is, pleroma is a heavenly realm. And when I say heaven, I actually do mean the Christianity heaven. When you think of heaven, think of the pleroma, right? It's just a place of unity and oneness. That's what's in the pleroma, right? The pleroma is perfection. And I say that because there's no separation in the pleroma. I'll get into that later. All right, so I wrote down Sophia's cosmic mistake, right? By the way, this is all color coordinated for the most part. This is black because at first, everything started. So all of this is separation. All of these colors right here, they're all separate from the oneness, which is black. So like right here, when I put Sophia's cosmic mistake, Sophia is part of the pleroma, which the monad made and created, which is heaven, like I said earlier. Now, why I have this color like this is because which Sophia represents in this story, the divine feminine energy, which source or the monad created in heaven, or the pleroma in Gnostic terms. So Sophia made a cosmic mistake. So what her cosmic mistake is she tried to create without her divine counterpart, which is the masculine, the divine masculine, which can also be looked at as Jesus, or a figure like, a masculine energy. I don't really want to get too, you guys too confused between Christianity and Gnosticism, but just know that Sophia was the divine feminine that she made her creation without anything, it wasn't balanced. She didn't have her divine masculine counterpart from the monad. So these colors represent separation, right? Like I said, you get all the colors. Black is it's the color that has you can't get any colors from black, right? So black is like infinite. It's the original color. So yep, Sophia in the pleroma, her cosmic mistake, right? So like I said, she had her cosmic mistake, right? She created without any balance from the masculine energy, from the monad. So what happens is she made the demiurge, right? She made the demiurge, which actually is the God of the Old Testament. The demiurge is the God of the Old Testament. It's actually Sophia's creation that she made, and she actually threw her creation, which is the demiurge or Yaldabaoth, out of the pleroma because she was so ashamed of it, and she just didn't really, it was all a big mistake, right? And that's the thing I'll get into later. In Christianity, it's they try to make it seem like it was a fall, which it was in a sense, but it was really just a big cosmic accident. So when Sophia made the demiurge or Yaldabaoth, like I said, she threw him, and I say him because it's more of a masculine energy. She threw Yaldabaoth out of the pleroma because she was so ashamed, and she thought that she wouldn't be pure enough to stay in the pleroma anymore because Yaldabaoth was so unbalanced and chaotic. And up here, you know, like I said, the monad, where the monad resides, it's not even really a place because it just is. The monad is everywhere. The source is in everything. So really, you know, you can't really say, it's not comprehensible where the monad is because it's not really in one place. It's everywhere, if that makes sense. It's everywhere and nowhere, if that makes sense. So the monad made the aeons. Now the aeons you can look at as just entities like angels and even devils, right? Demons. So angels and demons can be looked at as the aeons, right? At first they were all angels. You know, in Christianity, it says in the Bible how God created Lucifer, and Lucifer was, you know, his most beautiful angel. So the monad created the aeons, right? But when the monad created the aeons, he gave the aeons free will. So this is what allowed Sophia to make her cosmic mistake, which in return created humanity as we know it, created the demiurge or the God of the Old Testament, because he just had so much wrath, so much fury, because first of all, he was a flawed creation. He was born out of chaos. He wasn't born from balance. Sophia did not make him out of a balanced state. He was made imperfect. So that's why I drew all of this to represent that. So he basically made this realm, this material realm that all of us know, and we're all physical bodies. So, you know, the stars, the sky, the grass, land, and water, as we know, you know, those are what we know and what we can see with our eyes through the visible light spectrum. We can see all type of colors within the visible light spectrum, but we can see these colors because they're just a refraction. They're just a separation. So it's kind of optical illusion in a way, and we're experiencing this optical illusion through our five senses. I know it's hard to comprehend, but this is all Gnosticism. It's all in the text, the Nag Hammadi. So just stick with me, right? So we got the human creation right here. And so that's kind of the basic little quick story, and we'll get a lot more in depth with this, but that's just a 4 or 5 minute story of how the demiurge fell and was created, and how Sophia came to be with Monad and everything. So I've been studying this for about, I want to say 7 years, and it's a beautiful story. It's a sad story, but it's liberating that we don't come from an actual fall. It was just a mistake. It was a cosmic accident and a cosmic mistake, like I put on the board. And our creator, the demiurge, is actually flawed himself. And that's what Christianity gets kind of wrong. And I don't want to offend anybody, but my personal belief is that the God of this, the God of this world, the demiurge, is flawed because he was made, it was an accident that he was even made, right? Because if something is made by the source, it won't have any flaws until that source wants to make more creators and give those creators free will. And then that's when we can get separation and flaws and imperfection, when this creator, this source, this evergreen source starts giving out free will, which isn't a bad thing, but it's not a good thing either, but good and bad are they're not really real. It's a human construct in a way. All right, so we could do the differences between religion, and I'm off the top of I don't really got no notes, so bear with me. All right, so we got Gnosticism right here. We got Christianity right here. All right, so the fall for Gnosticism, right? So it wasn't a fall, it was an accident. We'll put Cosmic accident. All right. So the fall for Gnosticism was a cosmic accident, right? Accident. Now, the fall for Christianity was caused by disobedience and sin, right? Sin, disobedience. All right. Next, we got human nature. All right. So for Gnosticism, basically what I didn't mention previously is that the monad carries that spark, that evergreen spark. And the spark is what Sophia has because she's directly from the monad. So this inherently gets passed down to the demiurge. So the demiurge has that spark from the creator in him. Now the only thing is this divine spark is just trapped in matter now. It's not up in the higher spiritual realms. So spark trapped in matter, spark trapped. So we'll do spark trapped. Now for Christianity, now Christians believe that humans are just, so Christianity just believes that humans are just naturally just sinful, and which this is true, right? All right, so now we're gonna list the goal of these two. So for Gnosticism, the goal is to awaken through what you call gnosis, right? Now, the goal for Christianity is to be saved by an external deity. All right, so now let's look at the difference between these two. Now, the fall. How did all of this happen? How did we go from a spiritual realm to a realm of matter, a physical realm? So the fall, you can say there was a fall. And in Gnosticism case, this came with Sophia making her cosmic accident, right? Her cosmic mistake. So in Christianity, this fall was because sin and disobedience, which humans chose to do through Eve biting the apple. Now, my thing is, this doesn't make sense because it's like, how did humans, both of them are the same, because it's like there was free will, right? So for both of these, we can write free will. So since Sophia had free will and the humans, to put early humans, Adam and Eve, both had free will, this is how the fall happened, right? So think of the fall as a matter of free will. Now, in Gnosticism, the nature of it is that our souls are trapped in matter, right? So we have this divine spark in our souls, but our souls are trapped in physical bodies in matter. So in Christianity, we're naturally sinful. So this is why ultimately Christianity believes that we have to have an external savior, because in Christianity, the spark is not within us, according to that religion, which in Gnosticism, the spark is within us, it's just trapped in matter. So it's basically just a belief of us being spiritually and eternal beings and us just being naturally sinful humans, right? You can pick what you want to believe, but I choose to believe that we're a spark trapped in a physical body. We're all eternal beings, we're all eternal souls as humans, right? So now the goal is to awaken through gnosis. And what gnosis is the Greek term for wisdom. So awaken through wisdom, right? Now, the goal for Christianity is to be saved. And who saves us through Christianity's eyes? An external savior. Now, you can see how similar, like I'm having trouble finding differences. You can see how similar these beliefs are, right? You got the cosmic accident, the spark trapped in matter, and you have to awaken through wisdom. And what ultimately for the goal for both of these also can be to get to heaven or the plural. Now, the biggest difference I would say in these religions, right? I would say that the biggest difference is that this over here, this, right? It brings a lot of fear. And why I say this brings fear is because if you're scared to do certain things because you'll burn in hell for eternity, that's scary. You're gonna fear that religion, right? And over here on the Gnostics, it brings hope. It brings hope because we all have our spark. We all have that from the source, right? And we know that we can reach back up into heaven through that spark and through gnosis, which means wisdom, right? Now, it just makes more sense that we can reach the pleroma or heaven through the spark. It makes more sense versus external savior. That's just my opinion.